Alright, fellow Trekkies and Trekkies, time for the final episode of Review of the Day, which is Sacrifice of Angels. On the USS Defiant, Captain Benjamin Sisko orders a cruiser and Galaxy Wings to drop to have impulse, and asks the Defiant's helm to do likewise. At the science station, Elim Garrick remarks O'Reilly that the absent Klingons will be sorry they missed a very interesting fight. O'Brien says it is more likely that they'll miss the Klingons. Sisko tells his crew to forget the Klingons and reminds him that it's their job to reach Deep Space Nine to stop the Dominion reinforcements from coming through the Bajoran wormhole. He then orders the Federation attack fighters to fire only on the Cardassian starships. Ensign Nog is confused, and Garrick explains that Sisko is hoping to provoke the Cardassians into breaking formation, opening a hole in the Dominion lines, which is what our ships will not do. As they prepare to attack, O'Brien and Bashir quote from Tennyson's The Charge of the Light Brigade. Something which only makes already nervous Nog even more agitated. Finally, Sisko orders the attack fighters forward to fire at will. With that, the battle is joined. With the Cardassians staying to the ground after the fighters' first run, Sisko orders the second and third waves forward. On the station, safely back for the front line, Dukat, Damar, Wiyun, and the female changeling surveyed the developing battle and ops. Dukat recognizes Sisko's strategy almost immediately, but instead of holding their ground, he explains to the female changeling that he plans to give Sisko's opening, and then use it to envelop him. As for the minefield, Dukat promises he'll be down in 8 hours, something Wiyun says he will hold Dukat to. As founder and Vorta commander leave, Damar sneers at their arrogance and egotism. Dukat chides him that the Dominion are their allies, for now. Damar then raises his concern that the Federation-loyal elements may seek to sabotage the station again, hoping to damage or disable Terra Ignore before the minefield is deactivated. Damar suggests that they'll be arrested until the battle is over. Rather than agitate the Bajorans, Dukat suggests that if anyone asks why they are under arrest, tell them that they're merely being held for questioning. However, Dukat firmly rejects Damar's suggestion that Ziyal be likewise detained, insisting that she is loyal to him and to Cardassia. In Quark's set elements, Karajik and Lita are discussing the battle. Contradicting reports range from two fleets slugging out to the Federation fleet being completely annihilated. Kira suggests cutting off power to the main computer with a bomb, but before they can fully flesh out their plan, Glenn Hofer remarks from Quark. Damar arrives to take them to the security office, leaving Quark behind, uncertain as to what to do. Sisko continues to press the Cardassians. The ninth wave of fighters proves just as effective as the previous 8, but Dukat is now prepared to spring its trap. He then orders half a dozen squadrons to pursue the next group of attacking ships, pulling them out of formation. As O'Brien and Garrick note that a hole in the Dominion alliance has been opened, Dask and Sisko notes the position of 2 Galore-class starships moving into crossfire positions around Dukat and luring them into a trap. Sisko says this may be their only opportunity to break through, and orders the fleet to advance, detailing 2 wings of Galaxy-class starships to engage the Galores, and all their ships head for that opening. Anyone who gets through doesn't stop until they reach Deep Space Nine. The Federation fleet leaps forward, weapons blazing, and the 2 Galores are quickly dispatched. The Defiant, flanked by 2 Miranda-class starships, heads into the heart of the blockade, taking multiple hits. The battle sends into a frantic melee as Dominion starships close around the Starfleet vessels and begin jamming fleet communications with a rotating EM pulse. O'Brien rushes to try to clear the signal. For now, Sisko's orders cannot get out to their intended recipients. Back on the station, Dukat pours himself a glass of Kanar in his office and confidently toasts the conquerors of the Federation. William notes that there are still 5 hours remaining before the Dominion reinforcements can come through the wormhole. He is likewise preoccupied with the formidable logistical task of occupying such a large swath of conquered territory as Dukat is considering. He concludes that the center of the inevitable resistance against Dominion occupation will be Earth, which is why it makes sense to eradicate its entire population. Dukat objects to such a measure as unnecessary. In his mind, The truest form of victory is to leave your enemy alive, so they can see the error of their ways in resisting in the first place, to force them to acknowledge your greatness. When asks, then you kill them? And Dukat concedes, only if it's necessary. Savoring his drink, Dukat's thoughts turn to the occupation of Bajor, and says his one regret is that the Bajorans never saw him for what he really was, a protector, not a dictator, who shepherded them, rather than oppressed them. Dukat adds that for Sisko, for his respectiveness, shares this unjust lack of respect for Dukat. Weyoun, contemplating that Dukat actually believes what he's saying, was both amused and fascinated by his egotism and self-delusion. The female changeling talks to Odo, regaling him with their success in the battle so far. He cannot share her sense of vindication when people he used to consider his friends are fighting and dying. She retorts they are only solids, and that the link means more, much more. Odo isn't sure, and she realizes the reason behind his indecision, Kira and his feelings for her. The female changeling mentions Kira's arrest and that she is to be put to death, so that Odo can regain the clarity she had attempted to provide. Odo is horrified and turns away from her. She knows that Odo cannot help her or any of his friends. It is too late for them. The Defiant remains in the center of the battle, as the two Marine escorts, the USS Majestic and USS Sitek, are blown away by a concerted assault. Brian reports that communications have been restored, but the enemy numbers are simply too great. Garrick wonders if it's time to cloak and run, but Brian says the cloaking device is fried. Seeing four Jem'Hadar attack ships directly ahead, Sisko orders the Defiant to fight its way through. Destroying one freighter, the Defiant is pursued by the remaining three. Aft shields are down, forward shields are failing, and the cloaking device is offline. Sisko orders all power to weapons. Just then, a fleet of Klingon starships emerged from the blinding light of the system's sun, hammering into the Dominion fleet. Worf contacts the Defiant and apologizes for being late. Convincing government spare ships for the mission was not easy. The Klingons reinforcing the assault, a rail opening has appeared in the enemy lines, and the Defiant weaves its way through the battle, emerging alone in the wake of an exploding Jem'Hadar battlecruiser. With the rest of the fleet pinned down in 3 hours remaining for the detonation of the minefield, Sisko gives command to set a course for Terra Canora maximum warp. Aboard the station, Wayne orders pursuit, but Dukat notes that the station's defenses are more than enough to deal with one small starship, and Sisko's attack is nothing less than suicidal. Meanwhile, Quark grabs Ciel in her quarters and asks her if she knows how to make a Habersat souffle. Ciel is intrigued. They go to the security office and attempt to take the souffle to Kira. The Cardassian guard is suspicious and begins to disassemble the meal, only stopped by Haba spray wielded by Zial. In the holding cells, Ron contemplates his imminent execution, with only 90 minutes remaining. He expects to be dead after 2 hours. Following a lengthy speech by Dukat and victory party with cake and Rectagino. Just then, Quark and Zial enter, Quark armed with the pair of Cardassian phase disruptor rifles. He tells the two Jem'Hadar guards not to move, then demands they open the cells. Zial points out to follow his request, and as Quark receives his order, the Jem'Hadar raise their weapons. Acting on instinct, Quark fires first, killing both soldiers. Stunned, Quark only stands and watches Zial takes down the force field and frees the resistance members. Grabbing the guards' weapons, Kira and planning to sabotage the main computer and tell the rest of them to hide. She grabs Silsa and Quark by the arm and he escapes with them. The female changeling continues to try and persuade Odo to link with her, only but interrupted by Weyoun informing them of the escape. He recommends they go to Ops, where they'll be safer, but Odo states he will remain behind in his quarters. Kira and Rom head for the main computer and attempt to shut down the power systems, pursued by Dominion forces. Pinned down in cargo bay, Rom reacts in surprise at the Son of Bajoran phaser fire. Kira's at a loss to explain why Dominion forces would use Bajoran weapons, but the shooting stopped seconds later. She looks out to see who had actually been using them. Odo has assembled a security force and outflanked the enemy. As he escorts him to an access conduit, Kira asks why he changed his mind. Odo knows that the link was Paradise, but isn't quite ready for Paradise yet. Aww. The fight is closing on the station, a mere 11 minutes away, cutting it a little close, O'Brien notes. Rom works frantically at the main computer core. Kira is sitting helplessly watching. As she asks how the work is going, Rom realizes he won't make it in time. Gears are just getting power to the station's weapons array instead. Without weapons, the minefield cannot be detonated, at least not long before the Defiant can get there. Rom resumes his work. In space, the battle has begun to turn the way of the Allies. The Klingons have outflanked the Dominion blockade fleet, and their lines are starting to crumble. Dukat is undeterred. With the minefield about to be taken down, thousands of ships wait on their side to reinforce their position. His only hope is that the Defiant arrives in time for Sisko to see it, and his wish may be coming true. Dex suggests to Sisko that he might want to come up with an alternate plan. Rom is severing the final connections to the Odean relays just as Damar neutralizes the last spy, leaving the field ready for detonation. Dukat gives the order just as Rom severs the last connection. With a brilliant flash, the ray of mines is wiped out. Rom was too late, and the Defiant too. Sisko and Skrr watch and horse a shockwave of the detonations blossom around the station. He orders Dex to enter the wormhole, one less hopeless stand against the Dominion fleet. As female changeling communicates to the Dominion reinforcements, Damar detects the approaching Defiant, and William gives the order to destroy her. But Rom's work has been successful, and the station's weapons are offline. The Defiant enters the wormhole. Sisko orders the ship to halt. All power diverted to weapons and forward shields as the Dominion fleet, comprising of thousands of ships, is seen on the view screen. The crew is silently prepared for the inevitable when Sisko is silently pulled into the realm of the prophets. They challenge his decision to end the game. They cannot allow him to die. Sisko tells them that the only way for them to save his life is to prevent the Jem'Hadar fleet from entering the Alpha Quadrant. The prophets dismiss his demands. They are not concerned with corporeal matters. Sisko rounds on them. What about Bajor? Their influence over that world is entirely corporeal matter, and Bajor will be destroyed if the Dominion reinforcements arrive. You want to be gods? Then be gods. I need a miracle. Bajor needs a miracle. Stop those ships. The prophets finally agree, but know that dependence must be exacted for Sisko's interference. The Sisko is a Bajor, as the prophets are, but he'll find no rifts there. He will follow a different path. Before we can find out what they mean, Sisko's returned to the bridge of the Defiant as the Dominion fleet enters weapons range. On the Defiant, the group brace themselves for the last hope of stand against the Dominion Armada. Before anything can happen, though, the Jem'Hadar vessels are enveloped in waves of energy and disappear completely. At first, O'Brien believes that all the ships have cloaked, but Dax cannot detect any neutrino emissions. The ships are just gone. Sisko tells his crew that wherever they've gone to, he's certain they won't be coming back. He's certain they won't be coming back. On Terra Nor, the Dominion Cardassians prepare to enjoy their victory. The Defiant emerges from the wormhole, and everyone waits for the fleet that should be just behind it. However, the wormhole closes again, with everyone agape, but none more so than Dukat. Damar, checking the surrounding space in the Dominion's Gamma Quadrant listening posts, reports, stunned, that the reinforcements are nowhere to be found. The Defiant opens fire on the still defenseless station. With weapons still offline, Damar announces that 200 Allied ships have broken through the alliance and are heading for the station. Wiyun, realizing Terra Nor is lost, orders an evacuation. The female changing orders the Dominion forces to fall back to Cardassian space, knowing the war will apparently take longer than expected. Dukat remains completely aghast at his sudden change in fortune, and his slim grasp of our reality begins to crumble. As Damar organizes the evacuation, Dukat's sole thought is with Ziyal. He must find her. Sisko lets the Dominion forces evacuate. The Find is in no shape to stop them. She released a mission from the USS Cortez. The Dominion forces are in full retreat. Smiling, Sisko gives the order for the fleet to rendezvous at Deep Space Nine. The captain triumphantly returns to his chair. A disheveled and distracted Dukat wanders a promenade, searching for Ziyal. Wiyun and the female changing depart the station. Wiyun asks if Odo will be joining them. The female changing says no, but it's only a matter of time until he does. With one final look at Slaw's prize, Wiyun enters the airlock. Dukat has her Jabtar ring in, finds Ziyal looking for him. Dukat wants her to come back to Cardassia with him, She's all he cares about, all he has. But Zial doesn't want to leave. Dukat is insistent. The enemy is on its way. Zial says they aren't her enemy. She's one of them. She'll help Kira and the others escape. She belongs here on the station and bids him goodbye. As she leaves, she returns back to tell Dukat she loves him, only to be shot by an overhearing Damar. Shattered by grief, Dukat runs to his dying daughter and tells her he forgives her, angrily shoving aside Damar as he tries to get him to leave. The last Dominion ship has been routed. Starfleet has returned to Deep Space Nine, and Sisko sets his foot upon his home once more to a cheering crowd of Bajors and happily reunites with Jake. Martok arrives just afterward, and Sisko has won his wager with him, a barrel of blood wine for the first of them to step aboard the station. Sisko tells the General they will drink it together. Worf and Dex are reunited, and Bashir and O'Brien and Bashir are too, Quark's holosuites. Nog relates his promotion to his father and Lita, remarking that this now makes him Rom's superior officer. As Garak searches the promenade, Sisko asks after Kira. The Major is in the infirmary with Zial. Garak reacts and heads for the medical facility, finding Kira still standing over the young woman's body. He remarks that he can never figure out why she loved him, and now he never will. Dukat is still aboard the station, a shattered wreck of a man. Babbling to himself an illusionary Zial, he is helped out of a holding cell by Odo, handing Sisko's baseball to him as he does. Sisko regards the object for a moment, and Dukat is led away by Odo. Wow. So anyway, let's take a look at some background information from this episode. This episode contains the largest battle ever seen in Star Trek, topping the Way of the Warrior, which itself had topped the Dice cast. It's also the first Star Trek episode where CGI is used exclusively. Being the first episode where the battle scenes were entirely done in CGI, the producers realized that this was a massive project for television and quickly displayed the workload between Digital Muse and Foundation Imaging. The latter was tasked with digitizing the alien ships, while the former would handle those Federation ships that were not digitized yet. The animation of the battle itself was for the first half handled by Digital Muse. Foundation did the second half, with the USS Defiant breaking through the lines and the arrival of the Klingons. Visual effects supervisor David Stipes explains that traditionally, scenes like this are done on the soundstage with models via motion control rigs, but that was not an option this time due to the immensity of the battle. Quote, "The problem is that motion controls is about shooting one ship at a time, one pass at a time. There was no way we could have done it. We just didn't have enough time or money." End quote. Zachary Bradley Thompson, who was once a pilot, both consulted on the battle sequence because the producers wanted to do something with specific military tactics as opposed to just two fleets shooting at one another. This episode marks the death of Tora Zial, played by Millie Smith, on the outside of Gul Dukat's descent into madness. However, Iris Rivera maintains that Dukat was well on his way to madness long before Zial's death. Quote, "The difference between Dukat and someone like Sisko, it's one of the ultimate differences of the show. A healthy human being like Sisko knows himself. That doesn't mean he doesn't have limitations. It doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes, but he knows himself. Dukat is a totally self-deluded person. He's a deeply screwed-up Cardassian who doesn't understand his own motives. He loves Zial, but like the truly sociopathic personality he is, he wasn't above using her or lying to her." End quote. Dukat's motives, his madness, and delusions would next be addressed in the episode Waltz. On the death of Zial itself, Hans Mueller says, quote, "We understood the ramifications on all the characters. We built up her relationship with Garak. The girl who always told the truth had fallen in love with the guy who never tells the truth, or all of the truth. It made for a nice tragic love story, and it does start to motivate Garak in his future actions." End quote. The Prophet's description of Sisko's life as the game is a reference back to Emissary. There, Sisko explains the linear existence of the Prophets using a baseball game as a metaphor. They also referred to the game when explaining to Quark why they had taken away Zek's greed in the third season episode Prophet Motive, because he wanted to know the outcome of the game before it was over. When Sisko says to the Prophets, you once told me you were a Bajor," he's referring to the fourth season episode Accession. After representing an accession, this episode represents Sisko's third visit to the Prophets. At the end of the episode, Sisko gets the Prophets to help him but there was a price to pay, an idea of the many mythic and biblical precursors. Hans Beimler says, quote, "It's tragic hero stuff. A hero takes on things for others, but doesn't necessarily find any peace himself in the result." End quote. In relation to this, Ira Steven Behr compares Sisko to Moses, who guides his people to the Promised Land, but who isn't allowed to enter himself, and Ethan Edwards, the John Wayne character of the 1956 John Ford film The Searchers, who reunites with his family but cannot enter the house with them. Both the prophet's assertion that although Sisko is a Bajor, he will find no peace there, and the Fable Chasing's claim that Odo one day joined the Great Link, will prove to be true, with both coming to pass in the series finale, What You Leave Behind. When this show aired, there were some criticisms of it having a Deus Ex Machina ending, something which infuriated Ira Steven Behr. Quote, "I felt it was the perfect next step in the evolution of the relationship between Sisko and the prophets that began in the pilot. Hearing people refer to it as some dopey Deus Ex Machina is really annoying, because I think they give us more credit for being on the ball. We didn't have to end it like that. We chose to end it like that, because we wanted to say that there was something going on here. Ultimately, that leads to our finding that Sisko is part prophet. They wouldn't have done this for just anyone. This was a man going out to the wilderness and demanding God to interfere, to do something, for crying out loud. The corporeal characters had done so much in this episode, surely they'd earned the help of the gods." End quote. Ronald G. Moore commented on the prophet's intervention, quote, "The intervention of the prophets was something we discussed during the development of the 6-episode arc. The Sisko/prophet story is something we considered to be a key element of the series itself. To us, the finale sacrifice was something that came organically out of the overall story of DS9, and that's why we did it. The journey Sisko has made from emissary to sacrifice is a profound one. It's gone from a man who questioned the very existence of the prophets to asking them to behave like gods and save their children down on Bajor. There will be a price exacted from Sisko for daring to bring the prophets into this conflict, and will play that out as the series continues." End quote. The poem quoted by O'Brien and Bashir on the bridge before the battle is The Charge of the Light Brigade, a narrative poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson about the Crimean War, written in 1854. Quark's amusingly contradictory orders to the Jem'Hadar arc during the Holy Cell breakout are reminiscent of the bank heist scene involving John Goodman in the 1987 Coen Brothers film Raising Arizona. The story document for this episode was distributed around Paramount with a typo on the cover, insisting it being titled Sacrifice of Angels. It was titled Sacrifice of Angles. Ira Steven Behr has jokingly said he prefers the Angles title. The footage of Federation ships docked and flying around Deep Space Nine after it was successfully recaptured was previously used in The Way of the Warrior and Dr. Bashir, I presume. Ducat's strategy, deliberately opening a hole in the Dominion Cardassian alliance, hoping to draw the enemy in and envelop them, similar to the successful strategy used by Hannibal at the Battle of Cannae on Earth in the 3rd century BC. It's interesting that Bashir is the one to point out the trap. Alexander Siddig later portrayed Hannibal in a made-for-TV film. With this assumption that any resistance against the Dominion occupation of the Federation would begin on Earth was later reiterated in statistical probabilities, where Jack Lerner Patrick predicted that after 5 generations of Dominion rule, a rebellion would form, centered on Earth. That's very true. So, yeah. So, well, I really do like this episode, and hey, Sisko finally got DS9 back, so that's good. He got his office back, and his baseball back as well, so yay! So overall, I give Sacrifice of Angels 5 warp cores out of 5. Anyway, tune in more as we to the next episode. You are cordially invited. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.